Many believe life as we know it has changed irrevocably, and that in this seismic shift lies an opportunity to turn things around, improve our world, and make life better for the majority, especially poor countries. It is time to reboot Nigeria. This is Pivotal. There are over 94 million women in Nigeria today, but only 62 women have been recorded as elected, a meager 4.17% of elected officials. This figure does not reflect the presence of a national gender policy, which formulated a 35% affirmative action in Nigeria since 2006. This policy demands that 35% of women be involved in all governance processes. In the current dispensation, which ushered in President Muhammadu Buhari, there are only 6 female deputy governors and 7 senators, the highest heights women have attained in politics. Speaking on the cause of the decline recently, the acting director general of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPSS, Brigadier General Chukwuemeka Udaya, blamed political parties in Nigeria for disregarding the provisions in their constitutions, guidelines, and the rules on inclusion of women in the scheme of things. On the 28th of October, the president of Women in Politics Forum, Ebere Ifendo, threatened to sue the People's Democratic Party over a plot to sideline women in its just concluded national convention. She declared the group's support for the ambition of a former Minister of Women Affairs, Ina Chiroma, who is contesting for the position of Deputy National Chairperson North. However, in the turn of events at the convention, Ina Chiroma lost the bid. In April, Nigerian lawmakers began a major step to ensure more women in parliament in a bill to amend the 1999 constitution so as to create new legislative seats reserved for women. Although the bill has scaled second reading in the National Assembly, not much is heard lately. The real question here is, will the nation witness the actualization of the 35% affirmative action in the 2023 general elections? My name is Chika Agu, sitting in for Kadri Ahmed, and I'm joined by Indi Kato, a politician, former member of the People's Democratic Party and the executive director of the Nindari Empowerment Foundation, and also Fatima Zara Umar, a lawyer, the special assistant to the Senate's president on gender, as well as co-founder of Jaruma, an online women's magazine. Thank you for joining us on Pivotal.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to start with you, Ms. Indy. Section 6, subsection 7 of the People's Democratic Party PDP Constitution makes provision for the 35% of the party leadership to be women. But in the just concluded convention, out of 21 national positions, only 2 women contested. How do you reckon we arrived here, Indy?
Okay, thank you for having me. We live in a very patriarchal society. Women are not seen as leaders. And I just remember yesterday, I was going through the headlines of Premium Times on Twitter, and you can see quotations for men. Men were making the news, men were saying things, even men that you're like, oh, when last was this person relevant? They were being quoted. But the part where a Nigerian woman had done something with federal government, they said Nigeria, she wasn't quoted. The only time we saw a woman being in a position of power or being referred to as a powerful person was Justice Mary Odili. And when I looked at it, she was being covered as a victim. We don't usually hear from Justice Mary Odili or know what she's doing or the court cases she handles, nothing. And that is part of it. Nothing is projecting us in leadership positions. It's I wouldn't say nothing, but seldom things are projecting us in leadership positions. And this is one of the things, adverts, everything down to the very bottom, the very lower cadre of society. Women are not seen as leaders. We're still dealing with gross inequalities. We're still dealing with issues where women do not have their rights. But let's come into the political parties. The last PDP convention set the tone for this one. And what happened in the last PDP convention? The last convention, women were assured this 35% affirmative action was brought to the fore. In fact, at the time, many of us thought, okay, this is a time when PDP would see an opportunity to bring its push its best foot forward. What we had was a lot of these things had people, oh, this is my person coming here, that is my person coming there, that is my person coming there. At the end of the day, it was sort of an election, but in these kinds of cases, internal party democracy is sacrificed. What you would want increasingly is that people will be able to build their profiles within the party and be able to grow a followership and be able to get people within the party to understand that their interests align and get those votes. But if we keep having selections, and it's not just the PDP that is doing this thing, on all ends, the two major political parties we're looking at, we need to do better. But let's come back to this election and how at the end of the day it became a selection. When democracy dies, endangered groups are the first to pay the price. You would even think that, okay, since it's a selection, we might even be able to use the Malawi style of things where when you win the seats, that is when you now pick the people who will be in these seats, right? So that is how Malawi is able to have 50%. Even with selections, the thoughts did not go to women. A PDP man, Alhaji Waziri, had the nerve, the effrontery to go on TV. At the same time, Haja Zainab Maina, former Minister of Women Affairs, was on Channels TV advocating for Haja Ina Chiroma to get this position. And Haja Ina Chiroma had been pushed so much to drop. This man went on TV from an opposition party that is hoping to win elections and say that, look, he cannot vote for a woman. If at this time, when we need all hands on deck for Nigeria to move forward, men can still say this without fear.
Okay, let me come to you, Fatima. The APC convention is, also upcoming. Do you have any serious concerns that we may see a replay of what happened with the PDP happen, with the APC at their forthcoming convention?
We do have concerns because, like my sister rightly noted earlier, the society itself does not see women in leadership positions. So while we have those concerns, we have learned lessons from what we have seen from our neighbors. I mean, our neighboring political parties. I don't want to call them opposition political parties. And for us in the women's wing, what we've tried to do is that no matter where they zone positions to, we have a qualified and competent woman who has a following within the party, who is also a strong party member, so that at least our losses will not be so bad. The reason for this is simple. A lot of the time when people come out, especially during conventions for party positions, some of them are not really people who party members see as party people. Some of them are people who just feel, okay, I think I can do this, but really they don't have a structure within the parties. And what we have done is to increasingly push young women to be within the structure of the party itself, so that when a convention comes and there are positions available, we will have people to present that the party will be familiar with. Another issue for us is also this issue of one big man who is a party bigwig selecting who becomes what. Within the small corners that we have influence, we are trying to hope and push that sort of occurrence does not happen.
How then can we further ensure the enforcement of the Nigeria gender policy? And this is to you, Fatima, here.
Yes, so the national gender policy has been enforced, I think, since 2013. The issue is Nigeria is a wonderful country in the sense that we have all the right things on paper, but the enforcement is where the problem is. So, for example, you cannot really force people in a political party to do what you like. Most of it is through participation and negotiation. While it is a space that a lot of professional women will turn their noses up at, I think it's important for professional women with money to join political parties and push for these things. It's nice and wonderful for us to legislate and say, we need minimum of 35%. I'd like to point out that 35% is the minimum that's expected. But the way 35% is being bandied about, it's sort of becoming a tokenist. We can't even get the tokenist. But the issue, we need women with money, just like the men have financial backing. One of the things that has come out of that conversation about increasing women's participation in the decision-making process, how can you make proper laws for people when half of your population is not well represented? How can you make laws that reflect their own realities? But this is the point we have reached as a country, where the legislature has to think about amending the constitution to allow for special seats. What we are saying is, give us level playing ground and see what we can. We don't always have to be carrying special seats on our head.
Let me come in here for a second, Ms. Fatima. And I understand you when you say that, the way the 35% affirmation is being, carried about sounds rather tokenist. But don't you think that, for instance, with the introduction of special seats for women in the legislature, don't you think that this, sort of gets us past this hurdle that we want to get past without having to go through all the problems of, women not having enough money here, or, women being sidelined? Don't you think just having the special seats that's reserved for women only sort of gives them that leap that they really need here to get into the House?
So, Chika, the thing is, we have to be realistic. If you are creating special seats for women in a country like Nigeria, what is going to happen, realistically speaking? And this cuts across the political culture of this country. What will happen is that there will be a big man who is a party bigwig who will allocate those seats to women that are loyal to him, depending on the constituency. These seats will not be available for women who are competent, who can offer quality representation to their constituencies. What is likely to happen is that we will be told to shut up and be happy with the porridge that we've been served. What I would prefer is for you to open up the space and allow us to compete on equal terms so that we earn our seats. Okay. But imagine I'm going to be sitting in a Senate with senators, right, who had to fight for their seat, who won their primaries and won the general elections, yet I'm in the Senate because somebody dashed me a seat. It doesn't, it's not equality at all.
I guess I understand when you say that now. Let me come to you, Indy. There's been an undulating pattern of growth and decline in women representation in politics since 1999. As out of the 109 Senate seats, women occupied 3 back in 1999, 4 in 2013, 9 in 2007, and then 7 both in 2011 and 2015. Out of the 360 seats in the House of Representatives, women represented 12 in 1999, 21 in 2003, 25 in 2007, 26 in 2011, and 22 in 2015. Why do you reckon we have had these undulations, in your opinion? And this is for you, Ms. Cindy.
We are getting less democratic. I've stated this before, that when democracy dies, disadvantaged groups, fringe groups are the first to suffer. So you see people whose religions are not generally accepted in the society. You see people whose faiths, you will see people whose lifestyles, whose beliefs, whose gender are not seen as leadership, whose age are not considered. These are the people that are sacrificed on it. Less human rights, less democracy means that less people on the decision-making table. Our democratic practices are reducing drastically. We are seeing a more introduction to, of violence. We're seeing an increase, of violence on the scene. Of course, that would make less women want to run. Many of us are looking at 2023 and going, am I sure I would want to go to a place where kidnapping is on the rise? People can take advantage of the insecurity and bring more harm to me. We're seeing an increase in violence against women. During the COVID-19 response, human rights response, the COVID-19 response in Nigeria, which we were a huge part of, we noticed an epidemic within a pandemic. And what was that? It was the fact that women, sexual and gender-based violence experiences a steep rise, right? Nigeria keeps telling women that they cannot participate, but it's not just telling women, it keeps showing women when women come out to run, when conversations arise about women, everything. Today, I'm just looking at Twitter and seeing from Channels TV, somebody decided to do a report that Nigerian women import over $200 million worth of human hair. And instead of looking at it from the angle of the economy thriving from this, decided to say, oh, instead we could use it to buy tractors and all of that. I was wondering, okay, the men who are not buying human hair, what is happening? This misogynistic representation in the media, all of these things contribute to women not participating. So it's a well-round thing. Even women who have money in Nigeria have to apologize for having it. Women who are powerful in Nigeria have to apologize for being powerful. Every time they are being featured in the news, it's a certain way. Even if you're a Kadaria Ahmed, and you people know these things, you will be pushed to the point where, well, you think you're powerful, we will show you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Indy. We'll go for a short break now, and when we return, we'll bring you more conversations here on Pivotal. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is Pivotal. So, picking up with the conversation, I'm going to start with you, Fatima. We've seen the quota system work in different countries to shore up the number of the number of women participating in politics. Do you reckon the quota system truly works here in Nigeria, or should we be seeking some other solutions at this point?
Generally, there's this argument like, okay, is it quota or should it be merit? And my answer has always been, why can't it be both? A quota system is important because it will address imbalances and it will reflect diversity. That's on paper. But really, in reality, does it reflect that? You know, I like to be realistic in these conversations. It's nice for us to be idealistic and think, yeah, that would be good if we make gender part of the quota system.
Yeah.
But even where the quota system doesn't ordinarily apply, so for example, in private establishments, a lot of our sisters, they are passed over for promotions. They are passed over for leadership positions. They are retired in the prime of their own careers. So just like my sister Edi said in the beginning, Nigeria is not ready and has refused to be ready for women to occupy spaces in public life.
Indeed, let me come to you here. You recently came out to say that you do not belong to any political party. And given your involvement in the last elections, I'm sure one would care to know why you have decided to take this stand at this critical time where we're asking for more women to be involved in politics.
So I took a break in 2019. It doesn't mean that I do not. So I am currently not in a political party. It does not mean that I cannot enter a political party tomorrow or even today. But as of 2019, after the elections, I wanted better. And the better I wanted was better engagement. I am very intellectual in my political engagement, and I would really prefer to be able to do a lot of strategy work. But if a lot of that is not happening, then it's a bit problematic. So I wanted some corrections. I wanted dignity in my participation. And it's not wrong to ask for that as a woman who is bringing so much to the table to whatever political party I belong to. And there I say, I bring too much to the political parties that I belong to. I think that being dignified and treated with respect is something that I'm worthy of. And I'm not saying that, other politicians don't go through it, but it's a bit too much for women to come up to these places and just anybody can come and call you all sorts of names and not even in the moment of trying to get points. No, just you're a female. This is the first thing that comes to you. You can keep saying that you're strong and all, but
still staying with you. When women say our political party is women, and I'm sure you must have heard this over and over again. Women in politics say our political party is women. Is this a statement of acceptance of defeat to the men and a stand to keep accepting women party leader titles as the highest political position to aspire to? I'm going to start with you, and then Fatima would also take a turn to answer this one. So let's hear from Indy.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that in being disadvantaged, we recognize one thing. Men too, their political party is men. It's just that they don't have to say it. That is why in Nigerian politics, they can just keep cross-carpeting and doing all of those things. And the rest of us who are disadvantaged, especially young people, who hold ourselves by the neck. You were in APC before, you cannot come to PDP. How dare you want to come to PDP? But men will cross over. In fact, they will send the miseries. When it's time for one of them to come back, they will go and sit down, have a meeting, greet, good evening, sir, please come back this way. That's what they do. So it's the same way women have to keep, reinforcing the fact that, look, just because we're in different political parties, I and Fatima are not nearly enemies. I believe in her political career. I think she's an excellent young woman. I think that the platforms that she has set up is really excellent. And the Northern women stand a huge chance at a better life if this kind of person makes it into the legislative arm of government. So I will support her if she's in APC, if she's in Labour Party, all of that. Unless, of course, if there is another candidate that I know that, okay, this person will perform more than Fatima. But highly likely, with the way Nigeria is, there will most likely not be. If she comes out for a position in the legislative arm of government from where she's coming from, she's going to be a very good candidate for that. And I think that it's nothing wrong to look at Fatima and say, you know what, Fatima, I support you. Now, if I can't support Fatima in the open, I can send funds. I can do what I can that, people may not know about it. But the truth of the matter is that, in this political career, in this person's political career, I'm invested. She's a woman like me. I think she brings so much to the table. And I'm not going to put her down because she belongs to another political party. She can be in mine tomorrow. What we need is more Fatimas in the space, more Indies in the space, and the protection of the interest of more Fatimas and more Indies in these spaces so that their careers can grow, so that there's representation, so that other young girls can know that this is spaces where they belong, so that we have more people in the space towards what? Equitable delivery of government's goods and services. Thank you.
Fatima, let me come to you. How are you responding to this?
I would like to say thank you so much, my sister, for that endorsement. I've watched your growth from far and, I'm rooting for you. To answer your question, I don't think, why would anybody think it's a statement of defeat? It's actually a statement of solidarity. There is no way I will see someone across a woman across the political divide and actively deploy my resources and my tiny chinkuli influence to fight. I will always stick by women, no matter their political leanings, because the battle she is fighting is the same battle I am fighting. The battle for respect, the battle for my value to be seen, the value for me to be given the space that I deserve. But
I think it's interesting to see that you and Indy both agree on certain things, especially with, what you have said, that the woman in the other political party is fighting the same battle that you are fighting in your political party. So I guess at this point, we must ask one question that would bring up a solution that solves both your problem in your political party and that of another woman in her own political party. What effective strategies can be employed to improve the participation of women in the political process, especially before the general elections in 2023?
So I think for me, the general problem is that a lot of us, it gets a bit too much and then we walk away from the process. Because when you mention participation, it's a whole gamut of activities. It's not just coming out for elective office and not winning. We have to participate in the party process. I'm constantly telling my colleagues, we have to participate in the party process. So if there's committee work in your party, you are there. If there's organizing in your party, please be there. The best way that we can build our ranks is to participate in the party processes. That is what is important. Join a political party.
Oh, okay, Indeed, let me come to you here. Ahead of 2023, what effective strategies can we employ to improve participation of women in political processes?
We can't keep leaving it to when we get to the mouth of the thing. Then we're like, okay, so how can we get more women in? It has ended. Once political season starts, you can't, so we need to put this in place far ahead. Our preparation right now should be that, post 2019, immediately we looked at what we got wrong and we started prepping for 2023 then. We can't be prepping for 2023 getting to 2022. Most of the decisions have been made. Most of the power brokers have put all their cards on the table. It doesn't work that way. What we can do now, what is left, what we can salvage now is platforming women, ensuring that more women are presented in media, more women are presented in conversations. Now, going forward, if there's another, towards the next conventions, what we must fight for. I understand that my sister Fatima is not comfortable with 35% affirmative action in places like the National Assembly. Even when we talk about this, I wonder, okay, how is that going to work? And you see that, it's going to cost so much money. But within the political parties, this is something that can work. If you push for 35% affirmative action from the grassroots level, all the way from grassroots to National Working Committee, this puts more women in decision-making tables. This has helped in the PDP when Iomaneni came and fought for increase in women delegates. It helped. But right now, we have to look towards doing more because it's the change that Iomaneni made when she was women leader that everybody is still using now. After she stops, if she paid a huge price for doing that, They are still punishing her political participation for daring to bring those changes. After she stopped, we haven't seen any. So within the political parties, and I also think that if we can actually fight to make this a bill and make sure that, okay, this is a bill, I think we'll see more in parties trying to adhere.
Thank you very much for joining us today on Pivotal. Nnamdi Kato, a politician, former member of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the executive director during Dinidari Empowerment Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us today, Dikato.
Thank you for having me.
We've also had the pleasure of Fatima Zara Umar, a lawyer, the special assistant to the Senate, to Nigeria Senate President on gender, as well as a co-founder of Jaruma, an online women's magazine. Pleasure having you join the conversation today.
Thank you so much.
Join us again next month for another edition of Pivotal. I am Chika Ago.